Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of And They Lied, a child's healing from abuse of being a biker's daughter. Welcome back, my spiritual beauties. Thank you so very much for sticking around and being with me through every episode so far. I truly appreciate it. And it is actually becoming very healthy for me to be able to express what I see in my visions through this media. And today, what I would like to talk about is the rising tide. I have not been able to shake this, and it has just been driving me nuts. Um, and so today, I titled this The Rising Tide, Witchcraft Protection, Religious Intolerance, and the Road That We Face Ahead. So, the biggest thing that I want to talk about is this huge growing threat right now to our communities. We need to have this serious conversation because the rising hostilities towards spiritual practitioners, those of us who especially practice witchcraft, paganism, hoodoo, voodoo, santeria, esperimo, all of those heritage practices, and alternative spiritualities. We need to be very, very cautious right now. From the unsettling events at this Stillwater Christian Fellowship in South Carolina to the resurgence of the witchcraft accusations in not only England, Zimbabwe, and beyond. Our world is now shifting and we need to be prepared. This is no longer about just knowing your history. This is about recognizing patterns and understanding how modern persecutions is evolving. So today in this episode, I want to break down recent events and analyze how these developments fit into the larger pattern of authoritarian control and be able to offer some guidance on how to protect yourself, your practice, and your community during these very, very uncertain times. So let's get started. So let's talk about what's happened in South Carolina with this Stillwater Christian Fellowship. Reports have surfaced regarding an aggressive confrontation between members of Stillwater Christian Fellowship and pagan vendors at a market on the Mill in Pickens, South Carolina. Witnesses have claimed that the church members openly condemned vendors selling witchcraft-related goods, such as mine, and began referencing biblical scriptures, particularly Exodus 22:18. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Just in case this was just a casual disagreement, let's be real because this was something that they put out in their newsletter. It wasn't just a casual disagreement. It was targeted harassment aimed at creating fear and driving those like us who don't align with their religious ideology away into the shadows. So, why does this matter? The escalation of the religious extremism is brutal. Open hostility towards witches, pagans, brujas, and alternative spiritual practitioners has begun to increase, especially in conservative religious regions, where Christian nationalism has skyrocketed. And we are starting to see a return to medieval persecution. While we're not at the full scale of like the witch hunts like they were before yet, history shows that these movements always start small. Isolated incidents like this one, harassment like this one, social exclusion like this. And it always is right before the escalating into more dangerous territory. And we're currently on our way into a legal gray area. While the First Amendment protects freedom of religion, many states have loopholes that allow for discrimination in private businesses and religious affiliated spaces. I know for me here in California, I am allowed to openly practice my belief system, but those are slowly being taken away across the country. And I say slowly because it is right now slow. They have a lot of targets in their view. So we are we are still kind of riding in the coattails of the line of people that they're trying to go after. So what can we do about it? One of the biggest things that we can do is document and report. Get on Blue Sky. Get on Witch Sky. Hashtag Witch Sky. Any harassment should be reported and documented. You can use that space. You can also contact organizers like the ACLU and other interfaith groups that defend our religious freedoms, because there are churches out there that will openly stand up for us because of how we practice, because they don't want the persecution. They understand. So you can search out for those type of places. The more isolated we are, the more vulnerable we become. So joining sacred spaces like mine and others like mine will help you. So find other local pagan or Wiccan or spiritual communities that you have a connection energetically with and stay connected. Know your rights. Reach out to your local law enforcement about the type of religious freedoms that you practice yourself. Asking questions that, in vague questions, mind you, I'm not saying call them and be like, hey, I'm a witch and da 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 da. No, I'm saying, hey, I heard that we have these type of laws. Can you confirm or deny? Or you can simply do a Google search. But again, be mindful. You can even go incognito and Google can still track your searches. Um, But make sure you're researching local laws on your religious freedoms and the types of discriminations that you can be protected against so you can defend yourself when and if necessary. So let's talk about this bigger picture. Witchcraft persecution is not just a thing of the past. This incident in South Carolina is not happening in a vacuum, guys. Around the world, accusations of witchcraft are increasing, often in devastating consequences. So let me explain a few that we have right now going on that you might not know about. In England, they have seen a surge, an alarming surge, in children being accused of witchcraft. With over 1,400 social work assessments in the past decade citing witchcraft-related abuses. So we have this happening right now in England. In the year leading up to March 2024, today, there are about 2,180 cases reported. Many of these accusations stem from extreme religious beliefs, particularly in immigrant communities where witchcraft is still feared and associated with like things like demonic possession or the devil. And then we have a recent film that just came out, um, Kendoki Witch Boy. And it is shedding light on these abuses, but awareness alone is not enough to stop the growing danger that is happening in England to these children. The second one is in Zambia. Zambia is currently under a witchcraft trial and a prosecution of several spiritual practitioners. In Zambia, two men are currently on trial for allegedly using witchcraft to harm their current president. This case outlines ongoing tension between traditional spiritual practitioners and the laws inherent from colonial rule. We see this in Chile, we see this in Zambia, we see this in Sudan, we see this all over the world right now. And it raises concerns about criminalization of indigenous and non-Christian spiritualities. Then we have something else that has happened that is actually a little bit more on the positive side. And that is that Scotland has honored witchcraft victims. Our sisters, our ancestors, while persecution is rising in some places, others are acknowledging that the past was wrong. And Scotland has officially introduced a memorial tartan to honor thousands of people, mostly women and children, who were executed for witchcraft between the 16th and 18th century. Now, this is an important step, but it also serves as a warning. If societies do not actively work against religious prosecution, history will and does have a find a way to repeat itself. So, how this connects to the larger political climate that we're in right now? Well, that goes back to the authoritarianism and the religious persecution that go hand in hand together. Throughout history, the authoritarian regimes have used religious fundamentalism as a tool to suppress anyone that chooses to dissent. And the United States, again, is no exception. With the appointment of this new Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, who has openly stated that those who do not conform should leave or be jailed, we are witnessing a direct threat to marginalized communities, including our spiritual practitioners. Because in those undocumented communities, our brujas, our babalaos, our santeria, there's just so many levels of different practitioners that are in these communities. We have to be mindful. We also have Blackwater, and I will not stop talking about these people. They have submitted a proposal, folks, to DHS to become private security operators and to move and completely do what has echoed past government crackdowns on things that are considered undesirable. A DHS registration app is already on its way. It is already being fully activated. It is not in full activation, but they are already starting to gear up their get your account started now, which will be used to track and monitor individuals, not only based on your immigration status, but you will be categorically monitored under certain religious and political affiliations. Now, we've heard a lot about the Alien Enemy Act, and I want to talk about its modern implications. See, the Aliens Enemy Act The law, originally passed in 1798, gives the government broad authority to detain and deport individuals considered a threat in times of war. And we all know he's already gearing up to try to start martial law. The Alien Enemy Act is just his next tool. In a climate where dissidence is increasingly being labeled as unpatriotic or dangerous or satanic or devil worship, this law could be repurposed to target those that are non-conforming to the practice of their new Christianity. Those of us that practice non-Christian spiritualities, especially those critical of government practices, there are already discussions of expanding government watch lists. And it is not unreasonable to think that pagans, witches, spiritual practitioners all over this nation could be included. So, what do we do? Right? How do we prepare for this storm that's coming? One, we need to strengthen our communities. One of the things that I have always relied upon is after every bit of the things that I went through, one of the things that kept coming back during all this is when I got sent to a lockdown facility for troubled children in Utah. Those facilities were designed for one thing: absolute control. Absolute control. They take away everything from you. They take away your normal clothes. They keep you in these gowns until you learn the laws inside and how things work. And they're doing that here. This is how it starts. So one of the things that you start to do when you're inside, on the inside, you start to find people that are like you. So you join little cliques, or maybe you had to create your own group. And that's what I'm telling you guys to do. We have to have strength in our community. Join a group, create your own local groups that are focusing on mutual aid and spiritual protection. And when I found my group in the lockdown, what I found was the kids that were telling me, you need to really pay attention to how things go here. Because the better you pay attention and the more you stay on track with the way that they want their system ran, the faster you'll be able to quote unquote graduate out of here. Another way you can strengthen your community is to engage with interfaith communities. There are plenty of them out there. Non-denominational churches are out there to help, and they can advocate and have been able to advocate for our religious freedoms. The other thing you can do is support small businesses like mine, Muse Goddess Botanica, and come to events like my full moon and new moon circles that are inclusive and specifically for the alternative spiritualities. Another thing you can do is continue to listen to my podcast so you can stay informed and protect your digital presence. Another way you can do this by protecting your own digital presence is by using encrypted communications apps like Signal. Signal is going to be our best bet because we cannot trust Meta. Again, Signal. Limit personal information that you share online. Think about closing down those Meta product watchdogs, government watchdogs. Because regardless to the point, they are monitoring. And another thing to do is to stay update on policy changes that may affect your religious freedoms. And like one that was passed this weekend of to only speak English in the United States. English is not the native tongue or native language of this country. This country does not, will not, and has not had a national language. English has just been adopted as one because it is spoken so many places around the world. And it was easy for us to be able to use that as a foundation to spread our like-minded community inclusiveness prior to the authoritarian rule. So just stay update on all your policy changes. Stay up to date on what this Department of Homeland Security cosplay girl is doing. And another thing is to know your rights. Know your rights back and forth, where you live, where you're at. Make sure you write down your representative that's represented you and demand clear protections for non-Christian spiritualities if you have the opportunity to do that, to make those phone calls, to write those emails. And if you or somebody you know has faces harassment or discrimination, report it. Seek local counsel. Do not hide. One of the things that I want to leave you with before we close is the time to act is not when it happens to you or in your neighborhood. The time to act is now. You can continue to keep your eyes closed to what is going on, or you can choose to open your eyes and fully walk into your own faith, confident and secure, no matter what the social statuses of your environment are going to look like. We are living in a time when history is repeating itself in a very dangerous way, from the small town confrontations to government overreach. The signal and the signs are all around us now. It isn't meant to incite fear. And I don't say this to incite fear. I say this to empower you. And it's meant to awaken your awareness to what we have going on out there. The days of assuming that it can't happen here is done and over. It's happening here, and we must be ready. Our ancestors faced prosecution, and yet they survived. We carry their resilience within us. Let's stand together, let's support each other, and let's protect our rights to exist, to use our practice, and to be able to thrive. So, sisters, until next time, stay away, stay aware, stay strong, and above all, stay awake.